And welcome back, everybody, to the TV show. I'm Jay Black on a boat, but this time without significant delay, it seems like. Joined, as always, by Rhea Hughes and Angelo. How are you guys, land lubbers?
Wonderful.
I'm great, Jay. I got two things I want to say. You're on a boat right now. First of all, I have a whole different perspective on Jay Black, which I will share later in this podcast. And it does not have to do with the fact that this is the first time in 77 episodes he's actually combed his hair. And the other thing, Jay, is that I was brought to tears twice from TV this week.
Wow.
Tears. And I can't wait to share with people the great emotion I felt from my favorite hobby, television.
Well, I can't wait either. This is the most exciting thing that's happened to me in a week because I'm on this stupid boat. All right, let's start. I sent you guys an article, and I wanted to get your opinion on this because I found it to be very interesting. It was an article from The Ringer, and it started with the perspective of True Detective, and True Detective being only 6 episodes long. And they were trying to determine what the optimum length is, because even HBO was saying to the creator, can you do it in 8? And she was saying, no, we're going to do it in 6. We got it in 6. And, back in Jackie Gleason's time, back when the Honeymooners were airing, there were 39 episodes in a season. And that has gone consistently down. When I was growing up, it was, 26 to 22, 23. And by the time, the 2000s rolled around, 20 was the average, then 13, now 10. Now, Rhea, I know you watch British shows, which have 2 episodes a season sometimes if you're lucky. So I'm curious about your perspective first. What do you think is ideal for the number of episodes in a season?
Well, it's funny. So I read the piece that you sent me, and I remembered when I kind of really first got into British shows was, it has to be over a decade ago because I was living in Queen Village, because I remember watching Sherlock, and that was the one with Benedict Cumberbatch. There were 3, I believe one season, there were only 3 episodes, but they were an hour and a half long. So they just did it differently. That they do most of that. My Manhunt, the show that I love, I believe is 4 or 5 episodes, but they're an hour. They give you substance in them. I believe you can do it in 6. To me, when you're sitting there going, all right, can I fast? It's hard to fast forward on stream because then you're like, I got to go back. But when you get to a point when you're watching a show and you go, I don't need this flotsam and jetsam stuff right here. I don't care about this person. This isn't integral to the storyline. Then I think it's a problem. Like, I don't like what Only Murders in the Building does, and I love the show. But every show is 25 minutes long, sometimes 30, but they're super short. But man, you want to get that next one, and they do it like over 10 episodes. I don't like that either, but I think the optimal thing to tell a great story is 5 to 6 episodes.
Well, for a single story. Angela, you agree?
Yeah, I have great respect for British television because one of my favorite series of British TV was Luther, and they did 4. And they did 4 and told a great story. And she's right that not every episode is exactly an hour or 48 minutes or whatever it is. They tell that story and lead you to the next chapter. And they tell a story really well. When I'm now binging 20 episode seasons, it is more clear to me than ever that the writers ran out long before they got to 20. And they come up with these. They do one in black and white. They do one backwards. They have all different techniques to try to keep it fresh. But if you watch like 30 Rock, which had like 22 episodes a season, it was a great show. Maybe 10 were great, and the others were throwaways. So I don't think 20 ever works. 10 can work. A Funny Woman, which is the best thing I've seen recently on PBS, also did 6, like True Detective. They blew it out in 6. They did a great job at 6. That was also British. And True Detective in 6 should have been a movie. Should have been about an hour and a half. It was bloated, overdone, and it lost my interest after 3. So it's always different depending on what story they're telling. But if it goes past 10, Jay, it almost never holds up.
Yeah, I do think the one exception I would say to that is sitcoms. And I know you brought up 30 Rock, but I do think a sitcom isn't trying to tell a story. It's trying to deliver jokes by your friends every week. And I do think that there's a difference there. And one of the things that she mentions in the article that I thought was interesting was that, you know, one of the things about TV that is different than movies are these are people you invite into your home. And if you're only inviting them in for 6 weeks, the next season, it's kind of hard to like remember who they are and what you were interested in and like, what did I like about these characters? Whereas, you know, in the old days, you'd watch a show like Leave It to Beaver. You knew who Eddie Haskell was. You know, you like he was there every week, so you knew who he was. So I do think sitcoms might live, you know, maybe not 20, maybe 13 for a sitcom would be an optimal number. Speaking of people leaving shows or shows leaving early, the second issue I wanted to talk about was one that we covered on the show. We didn't quite know what was going on, and that was Kevin Costner leaving the biggest hit on TV by a large margin, which is Yellowstone, early. And we were like, well, maybe he was tired. Maybe he just didn't want to do it anymore. Maybe he had enough money. Well, apparently, no, because he wanted to do 2 movies back to back that he spent $100 million of his own dollars to produce. Warner Brothers is distributing. Our good friend David Zaslav is distributing this. Part 1 comes out in June. Part 2 comes out in August. Is this the... I kind of respect it because it's the craziest late in life bet on yourself move I've ever seen. Nobody produces a movie with their own money, Angelo. Nobody. I'm in the business. Nobody.
I think they've misnamed it. All right. I believe instead of calling it Horizon, it should be Waterworld 2, because this would be as big a bomb as that one is. And by Waterworld, which was the ego trip of Kevin Costner that cost the producers $100 million, the same number he's putting into this thing. Who wants to see? Is it really people want to see a Civil War drama with Kevin Costner in it? It was like 70 now. Really? This is something we want? Look, Dances with Wolves was good. I'll give him that. He was 30 then. This is an ego trip destined to crash and burn. This will be as big a disaster as Waterworld.
Yeah, I don't know like how much like I really like World War II movies, but you're not getting me to watch a Civil War movie. It's just it's too far. Like, you know, my grandparents were in World War II. I heard stories, you know, that's kind of somewhat relatable to me. But I think I think it's a classic case of he was probably bored with Yellowstone. I mean, that's the only way I can look at it is he just, you know, but listen, how much money is he worth? 500 million? I mean, he's got all kinds of real estate, and he probably didn't have to give some of that to his ex-wife. That probably made him happy that she didn't get any of that money. So I mean, I think it just came down to him going, I'm Kevin Costner. People are going to watch it, which they will. You know, the first installment will get tons of viewers. They might not come back around for the August one, depending on how it is, but I think he just got bored with Yellowstone.
Well, you have to remember that the average age of a Yellowstone viewer were in their 40s during the Civil War, so they might be because they'll say, "Oh, I remember when that happened."
This has already backfired right in Kevin Costner's face, because I don't even know if it had ever been in the main media before this week. But Rhea knows what I'm talking about. There's been this urban myth, I guess, or urban tale. I don't know if it's
urban legend, I believe it's called. Yeah.
All right. But anyway, and Will Ferrell was on a show this week, Jay, while you were on the boat. And he said that this urban legend was, but he believes it, that he thinks it holds up. And the legend is that Cal Ripken was toward the latter stage of his consecutive game streak, right? And he went home one day. He was friends with Kevin Costner, and he caught Costner in bed with Cal Ripken's wife, right? And they got into a fight, and Ripken hurt his hand and couldn't play that night. So the Orioles didn't know what to do. So they finally got a brainstorm to keep the streak going. they disabled the light stanchions in Camden Yards or wherever it was, and they couldn't play that night. It was called off because of an electrical problem, which, by the way, has never happened in any other major league game in history. And the story is now back out in public, and Kevin Costner now appears to be in a newfound scandal from something that may or may not have happened 30 years ago. It's great.
Let's do a movie about that. I'd see a two-parter called Cal Ripken Cuck, Part 1, Part 2. Let's do it.
That I'll watch. Rhea will watch that.
No, guys, we did a thing a week ago on the morning show or something like that. What do you want to see a documentary on? And I think I picked that. I think I said I want to know the real story because we could never. I don't even think we could mention it on the air.
No,
because but Cal Ripken actually has addressed it, or not Cal Ripken. Yeah, he has addressed it publicly like a while ago, and so did Kevin Costner. But it's the fact that Will Ferrell is going, I think it's true. I'm going, is that legal?
I don't know if it's legal, but it allows us to talk about it now.
Exactly.
And by the way, it's late 80s Costner, so I would name a documentary, Can You Blame Her? That's
Thanks. You should be talking to my wife. She loves him too.
Yeah. I think all women love Kevin Costner. I mean, come on.
Yes.
So speaking of streaks, LeBron James, who has gotten 20 All-Star appearances, more than anybody in the history of the NBA. He is reportedly asking for $60 million for a 2-year extension, the max contract for a 2-year extension with the Lakers, which would be $30 million a year. He'll be 42 at the end of that contract, which in NBA years is about 139.
Yes.
He's still playing at a pretty high level, not the highest level that he was at when he was a younger man, obviously. But I was thinking about this, and I know that this is kind of a silly statement, but if we're thinking about, we talked about the Super Bowl as a TV product and the Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift adding 10 million viewers to the game. Nothing about what was happening on field mattered to those 10 million people. It was about the extra field stuff. Are we wrong to think of NBA players or any sports players that have a TV presence as TV actors, as personalities who should be paid commensurate with the number of eyeballs that they bring versus the number of wins that they bring? I mean, they're related, but they're not exactly the same. Is 60 million all that ridiculous when you factor that in, Rhea?
I mean, it's ridiculous to me because I don't think the NBA is getting the ratings that it used to. And because it's a product, people know that, the load management, people take off all the time. You buy a ticket. So you buy a ticket and go to a movie, you're seeing the stars. You buy a ticket and go to an NBA game, you don't know. I'm not lying to you. Many years ago when Phil Jackson was still coaching the Lakers, Angelo, I don't know if you remember, they put a super team together. They had Karl Malone, Gary Payton. I was running late to the game. It was a Friday night. I decided to meet some friends, pulled in, and I'm listening. Gary Payton got thrown out. Phil Jackson got ejected, and Karl Malone wasn't playing. And I turned around and left. I was going to see the stars. Right. So to me, it's insane. He'll get it because the Lakers are just so tied in with him. Just like, Bryce Harper is going to get his extension money, but I don't think they're worth it. I
don't either. First of all, LeBron at 39 right now is still way too young to run for president. All right. He's an old man in NBA circles. And I, for one, that doesn't draw eyeballs to me. I think it's sad when it gets to the point where the guy's past his prime. Here's the way I look at it. No, I think they're separate. I think you give him his $30 million a year if you could justify it in basketball terms, because the rest of the money, Jay, he's getting more money from endorsements and side deals than he is anyway. And that's based on your marquee value. So I'll give you an example. Right now, Shohei Ohtani is making $70 million a year. By far the most any American athlete has ever made. $70 million. Right. Patrick Mahomes, who is a much bigger attraction in a much more popular sport, is getting $45 million. All right. But the truth is, Mahomes is making probably another $50 million on all those stupid ads he's doing with Andy Reid, right?
Yes.
Insurance ads and all that other stuff he's doing. So I think the level of your fame, you get rewarded for that separate from what your contract is anyway. So he's making plenty. I'm sad that he wants to keep playing just so he can wait for his son to come up. Because by the time his son is playing, his son's going to be too young and his dad's going to be too old. So I don't know what the big attraction is going to be then either.
Well, he's a freshman at what, USC or UCLA? I forget where he's at, but he had a major heart condition. So I mean, there's a health issue with his son. So I don't know if he's ever going to get to play with them.
Well, maybe he'll do a Jordan, buy his own team, and put himself on there.
Do that. He's got the money.
Yeah,
got the money. All right, so I left some space here because Angelo, I got to tell you, Angelo, you warmed the cockles of my dead black heart with a phone call that you gave me last week. I mentioned Paulie, the TV pilot that I wrote and produced, and my writing partner Brian Herzlinger directed, and I sent it over. And I just want to, like LeBron, I'm just going to clear out Angelo and let you cook. You had some thoughts on this.
All right, this is not one of the 2 times I was brought to tears. I want to say this, Jay, and we go back a long way together, and I understand that the stuff you're writing for Hallmark and for Lifetime and all those, you are paid to write schlock. And
Yes.
and honestly, you are amazing. This Paulie, this pilot, Rhea, I don't know if you saw it. It's friggin' terrific. I mean, I've seen a lot of TV in my life, and I have not seen a pilot this good in years, right? Paul Sorvino plays this gruff mobster, and Jane Garofalo is his daughter, and they're both better in this than anything I've ever seen them in. They are fantastic in this. The story is great. The cinematography is great. This is absolutely a phenomenal project. And you need to explain to us, Jay, this will give us insight in TV on how something this good did not get picked up. Because if the right eyes are looking at that, you're getting the money and you're doing that show.
Yeah, so first off, thank you for all the kind words. I'm going to share this with Brian. I'm sure he'd love to hear it because we wrote it together and he directed the hell out of it. What a great job he did. But the thing is, we independently produced it. We raised the money with independent producers, which is similar to how It's Always Sunny did it. They shot a pilot without going through studios. Generally speaking, you submit a script. A studio or a network likes the script, they shoot the pilot, they do the notes. Very rarely, not like a movie. You can sell a movie to a studio. It's very, very, very rare to sell a pilot. So for a lot of the networks, we were persona non grata from the start. They wouldn't even look at it because it was independently done. The ones that did look at it, this is right around 2012, 2013. So HBO and Showtime were our 2 big shots, and they both loved it. We got really good feedback, but they said too similar to The Sopranos. HBO didn't want to repeat themselves with a mob show, and Showtime didn't want to look like they were chasing after The Sopranos. So where it wound up was a place called the Audience Network for DirecTV. I talked about this last week, and they were ready to pull the trigger. They got fired over Christmas break. The new regime never called us back. And at that point, it was kind of burnt everywhere. And once it's burnt, nobody will take a look at it. So it was very disappointing because honestly, when you get done something like that and you watch it, you go, this is maybe the best thing I've ever been involved with. And I can't understand why this isn't getting traction.
Jay, I tried to do a little research after I saw it because I was really upset. I wanted to see more. Paul Sorvino unfortunately is passed away.
Yeah,
he's gone. Yeah,
who's great in it. He's passed away, so they'd have to totally recast it. But it was so good, and I went, "How did they make these decisions?" And I read this story about a TV show back in the '80s, which I loved, called 30 Something. It was a great show. It was actually set in Philadelphia. And 30 years later, Ed Zwick, one of the producers and directors of the show, decided to do a reboot. This was in 2020.
Sure.
And they called it 30 Something Else, and they actually did a pilot. and it was going to be picked up because all the people from the previous show were in it, and their kids were now the 30-somethings. It
Oh,
had
I
a
love it.
great premise, and it had people who had demonstrated a great ability to do good television. It got flushed. They got rid of it. Some lame reason that with too many reboots. You know how you got the reason it's too much like The Sopranos. Here's the shows that they green lighted instead of it: Rebel and Harlem's Kitchen. Have
Never
any
heard of them.
ever heard of either of those shows?
No, no.
So they had something that worked and they didn't. And the problem now is so many of the decisions are made for the wrong reasons. If a show is good, it's good. Don't worry about what genre it is. That show, Jay Black, whatever you're doing now, Jay, go back to that project or do something on that level. Your talents far exceed what you have been doing in Hallmark and all those other schlocky things. And I know it's a living. I know that's why you're on a boat. You should be the next David Chase. Hello?
I would love to be, and I would still do this podcast, and I would be very much like David Chase.
No, you would not. He would not do the podcast. No, believe me. The minute that's picked up, we'll never see this guy again.
Jay, we have loads of experience of people who started with us and then became big, and then they stopped returning my phone calls. So
right,
never.
But if you leave us, Jay, we will just say the boat sunk.
That's how I'm fated to die. Is off the coast of Cozumel, Mexico. Talking to you. Angelo, thank you for the kind words. It really does mean a lot, especially because you're a TV connoisseur. So you have inspired me. I'm going to send that to my manager and say, can we do anything with this? I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
All right. An even better idea, though, is talking British TV with Rhea Hughes and Teen Corner with Rhea Hughes. Rhea, what do you got for us this week?
Well, this is great because I didn't know that my my review that I did for my British Corner is going to tie into what we talked about at the top of the show, episodes. So this is actually a French show that I did. It's on Amazon Prime. So I know people don't like subtitles, but I kind of went by it a couple times. It's called A Familiar Stranger. And so I said, let me just watch the first episode. And I loved it. It's basically, the story is this young girl is found, gets hit by a car, and turns out that she had gone missing as a 10-year-old 11 years prior. So the first episode is just full of all kinds of emotion. The parents get notified. They've obviously separated since because, it was such a tragedy. They couldn't handle it. The mother completely embraces the daughter. The father's a little suspicious. What's interesting is they bring the daughter home even before the DNA tests are finished, which I found kind of odd. But the first 3 episodes, and of course, the girl has amnesia. So she remembers nothing of, where she was abducted to, doesn't remember the parents. It was the first 3 episodes. I was on the edge of my seat, loved it. I got to the 4th episode, and then they just start throwing in other people and different storylines. And I literally was grabbing my remote going, but again, like I mentioned, it is hard to fast forward when you're streaming. So I have 2 episodes left. It's 6 episodes, but like I said, I loved the first 3. There were red flags everywhere about this girl. That is she really their daughter? And all kinds of mystery involved it. But to me, if they had done 4 to 5 episodes, they would have packed it all in. Now I'm going to finish watching it because I want to know how the story ended, but I'm not really into it.
Oh, gotcha.
After the first 3.
Yeah, that's it. That this is what we're talking about before. Padding it to a set number of episodes when you should let the story tell itself in however many episodes you need. Absolutely.
Just as an FYI, any network that's listening, if they do buy Paulie, I'll do 40 episodes a year if asked. Just as an FYI, I will pad the hell out of it if asked. Just want to let
I have to love live TV. I just want to apologize. I took a sip of water and it went down the wrong pipe.
Paulie is, I'm telling you right now, it's the best thing I saw this week. Maybe this month. Maybe this year. I mean, it is.
Wow.
It's so good. I can't get over it. It didn't get sold.
It's a strange visit. I always say the thing about the entertainment industry is it looks like chemistry, but it's really alchemy. Like, it looks like if you just follow the rules you'll achieve the thing that you want to achieve, but there's some ineffable magic that needs to come in that no one can really describe.
Luck. It's really just luck. It's luck.
Yeah,
it's getting somebody to say, "Hey, I really like this."
Yeah, exactly. The right person in the right place. What do you got for us on Teen Corner this week?
So, Teen, I'm actually really excited about. So, my son comes home on one day last week, and he says, "Hey, I got a ticket to the Catholic League Championship." He's a freshman at Roman, and Roman's in the finals. So that's great. I mean, this is a kid who my entire life, as he's growing up from the time he was a toddler, would mock me watching sports on TV because, Angelo and I are very similar. We watch TV, sports on TV, and I lose my mind. I'm screaming. His favorite thing to say, he started saying it to me when he was 4 years old. You do know they can't talk back to you. They can't hear you. So he's always made fun of my love of sports and my love of watching sports on television. Goes to the game. It's amazing. Roman wins on a last second shot in overtime. Comes home from school yesterday and he's like, "Can we watch the highlights?" My son in 14 and a half years has never asked to watch sports highlights with me ever. So we sat down, pulled it up on the computer. We watched it. He was still yelling and screaming. And he looked at me and he goes, "I get it now." And he said, "I'm invested," because it was his school. Like, Angelo, you never got that. I totally love Temple and I watch every game, even though they're terrible, but it's my school. And so he just said to me, he said, "Listen, I get what sports is. It's an emotional investment. And it's why they continue to make the money that sports will make, because sports is the greatest reality TV show." I read the NFL is guaranteed 125.5 billion in over the next decade in television money. That's almost 4 billion per club, because you can't replicate that in a scripted show. And that's why sports on TV will always finish in the top 10 of everything.
It's awesome.
That's a beautiful story. It really is. There's two things. One, there's nothing better than a kid turning to a parent and going, "I get it now." I think we all dream of hearing that. Yes. And two, I would quibble. The only show that comes close to equaling it, I think, is Harlem's Kitchen, a show we all love. And for years,
what happened to that?
All right, Angelo, I'm ready to hear what made you cry. I'm very excited about this.
Right. Tears in my eyes twice. First one, episode 4, final season, Curb Your Enthusiasm. These were tears from laughing so hard I was on the floor. All right. This final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm has been brilliant. And this one was, the main story is about somebody is disgruntled at the country club and they put up a sign and it gets all. But the real part that made me laugh so hard was Larry David's girlfriend in this, played by Tracy Ullman. She's Irma, right? And she somehow convinces Larry to go for couples counseling, right? And in it, at one point, Irma describes in depth a unique physical quality of Larry, namely that he has, and I'm quoting Irma now, long balls. And she's describing what happens when he sits on the toilet, and it's so funny. Jay, you can't breathe. It's so hilarious. My wife was laughing hilariously to the sequence about Larry David's gonads. And it's why, this is why I love television, because there is nothing in my life that consistently brings these heights of emotion the way TV does. And it's why, even in a week where I didn't find anything new that I could recommend, there's not a lot out there right now, I still had these moments. And that was the biggest laugh of my week. And the biggest cry, the only cry of this week. I mean, tears coming down my face. Monday night, The Daily Show, Jon Stewart.
Oh.
The first part of the show was rather serious this week. It was about Israel and Hamas and all that, although we found some humor there somehow. And then he got to the final 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Came back from break after a long interview. Too long, I thought. And he starts crying. on the screen
Oh,
as he describes and shows video of his dog Dipper.
oh,
Dipper was like 15 or 16. And he goes back and he has video of Dipper in his first run on The Daily Show, where Dipper was meeting all these famous people and, licking them and all that stuff.
yeah.
And he shows them and he does a tribute to him because the night before his dog died.
Oh,
And I'm telling you, he's crying,
no, yeah.
crying, can't speak. It's viral. You could see, if you just want to see that segment, you can go right to it. It's insanely emotional. And I'm sitting, my dog is sitting right next to me now, and he's got diabetes. And all I could do is cry when I saw it. I went, wow, you know what? Our love for our pets is so pure.
Yep.
It's really almost like a love for nothing else. It's just pure.
Yeah.
There's no negatives attached to it. We just love
And what it is, Ange, is that you only have them for a short time. I mean, you know it. You absolutely know when you bring them in, when you adopt them, that
Right.
you got like 10 to 15 years. And you're lucky if you get that.
So if you're looking for emotion this week, Larry's balls and Tom's dog. I'm telling you, this is why I'm doing the podcast. This is why I love TV.
Yeah.
Nothing else gives me what that gives me.
No.
Should I go through this, Jay? Should I go through what we did this week?
Yes, let's go through it.
All right. We did mention True Detective. If you still want to see the 6 episodes, they're on Max. The original thing that Kevin Costner did that was good was Dances with Wolves. That is available on Prime. The Horizon, I don't know where that'll be. Don't watch it. It's crazy. The NBA is on ABC and ESPN. Paulie, unfortunately, is nowhere. But stay tuned. It is great. It's the best thing I saw this week.
Jay, I have an idea. Real quick.
What?
You should post it on our podcast, and maybe someone would pick it up.
Can you do that?
I have to check in with the legality of that. I got to send an email to the people that produced it. If we can, I definitely will. I promise.
Grassroots.
Everyone will love it. I promise you that. Rhea's recommending A Familiar Stranger on Prime. And I am recommending Curb Your Enthusiasm, final season, episode 4, and The Daily Show. Don't miss the last 4 minutes on Paramount Plus.
Absolutely. And guys, if you enjoy this podcast, please tell a friend, tell 10 friends, tell 50 friends. Also, if you want more of Angelo, you can go to angelocatali.com and buy his book Loud, or get it on Amazon.com. Want to say special thanks to our producer, Jared Clapper, who does extraordinary work every week. Rhea, thank you for sharing your story about your son. That was lovely. And guys, we'll be back next week. Only one more week on the boat, I promise. And then I'm home. I'm going to hug my dog twice. See you next week, guys.